So you have a house under contract and you want to know what exactly may be wrong that you didn't see when you went on your walking tour? Now it's time to get a home inspection. That's what we're going to talk about today, right after this. Hello, I'm Anthony George, the Home Guy Waco. Each week I put together a video about real estate, Waco, and the surrounding area. This week I wanted to reach out and talk to an expert about home inspections and everything that is involved in the inspection process. Hi Kendrick, how you doing today?
I'm good.
This is Kendrick Tice of Blue Hen Home Inspections here in Waco. I've invited him here today to talk about the inspection process. Kendrick, how do you get involved inspecting homes?
Well, it started out for me. I was a carpenter, and then me and my wife made the transition to Waco, and honestly I needed a job and I didn't want to put a nail bag back on, and I knew I could serve people because I was good at looking at houses. And so I got into it, got my certifications, and I had to get certified just like you do with TREC, the Texas Real Estate Commission, and that put me on the path to home inspections.
So if I wanted to get a home inspection by, say, my uncle that does carpentry work, I may not want to use him?
So your uncle that does carpenter work can provide you probably good advice, but he's probably not going to be licensed and insured. And it is illegal under penalty of law, felony, in the state of Texas to offer an inspection without certification from the Texas Real Estate Commission.
So he could get in a lot of trouble if he goes out and does the inspection for me.
If he provides it as an inspection service, he can provide his advice, just not his inspection service.
Okay. So how long did that process take you to become licensed? I know in real estate we have to take 180 hours of classwork.
Correct. So my process started 16 years of construction, but my certification process with TREC was 330 hours of certification, 32 hours every 2 years of continuing education. But not only do we have to pass the state exam, we have to pass a national exam as well. So Texas, when I took the test, Texas was the highest requirement state in the United States for home inspections, apart from California.
So they do that in order to protect the home buyer?
Correct. It is. It's all about the home buyer and protection. And one of the interesting things about Texas is we have a minimum requirement report form. So any real estate agent is used to looking at the TREC 7-5, which is about to be 7-6 in a couple months here. That 7-5, we all have to report minimum to that. We can make some edits and we can make some changes to that form, but it's only additions to, we cannot subtract from that form. So there's a minimum standard. You hire a home inspector, we've all been through the 330 hours, we've been through the national exam. There's been some recent changes to that, so those requirements are a little different now, but there's still, it's to provide a safe standard for people to get inspection reports from. Making
sure that everybody's on the same page and looking for the same things.
Absolutely.
Okay. How would you explain the inspection process? And I know we spoke before, and it's basically from the dirt to the roof. How would you explain that?
It is from the dirt to the roof, and everything in between. So we look at all functional and visual aspects of every system. So we're not I'm gonna make sure I say this right. It's not a technically exhaustive report. We don't break down an HVAC system like an HVAC tech does. We wouldn't break down an electrical like an electrician. But what we do, we're a general practitioner, so we're gonna look at every aspect of the visual indicators. And so I'm gonna look inside an air conditioning unit, I'm gonna take the cover off an electrical panel. If you have a crawl space, if I can fit in it, I'll go in it. Now in Central Texas, there may be a few crawl spaces we can't fit in. But we're still gonna look for the indicators when we walk on a floor inside. What does that floor feel like? is there movement? I carry a pool cue with me, and that pool cue will tell me if something's going on. So whether it's a slab or a pier and beam, we look for those indicators of is it moving, and if not, then we can, if it's moving or stable, we can advise accordingly.
So I know that you look at systems. What about a pool system or wood insects? Do you do all that in your inspection? I know you said you were a general practitioner.
Correct. So there's some home inspectors that will do everything. I feel like my construction experience makes me an expert on the construction side. So I defer out for septics, for pools, and for pests, I defer to an expert
In those fields.
in those fields. Particularly is if you need service in those areas, it's an instant connection for somebody to get it repaired and get it taken care of for you.
So you have a list of individuals that
Absolutely.
look at those
So
other
if I
systems.
can't offer you a service, I will schedule it and set it up for you so that when you come to us, it's still a one-stop shop.
It's a one-stop shop. So if I were to schedule you for a home inspection, what is that process like for me as a home buyer or even a seller wanting to get my house ready for sale and find out what might
That's
be
a great
coming down the road?
question. So number one is my contact information. Give me a text message, an email, a phone call, and then I'm going to find out if you want to be on site. Then I'll make that work with you. There's a lot of times in this current market where the agent will come out and represent, and so then if you can't be on site, then I'll debrief you. But it's just simply, what's a phone call?
Right there, perfect timing.
Perfect timing. It's a phone call, it's a text message just saying, hey, this is what I have, this is what I need, and then we figure out what's best to accommodate you. And then I have some great software that really helps the communication side and makes it super easy for you guys. There's an inspection agreement, there's payment. We work out the best way to do that, but my software makes it super easy for you guys to do that. It's all about convenience on your end.
Yeah, speaking of the software, I know that whenever I get a report back from Kendrick, it comes and I can just pick and choose what I want to send over to the other agent if there are repairs required or anything that we want to reach out after the inspection process. So the software is a key element of the home inspection process. What would you say are what are the top 3 things that you find in Central Texas that I might want to be aware of going into a home inspection that are, the top 3 things that we tend to find in this area?
Yep. Right off the top of my head, the first would be foundations. That's because Central Texas has what's called expansive soil. And so that would be your foundation issues. There's quite a bit of that. Some of it's in a pier and beam style house, some of it's in slab houses, and some of the original cottage style houses have what we call it block and pad, because essentially they're just built on top of the grade, which is how you would buy a house from Sears.
Right.
And you would lay block on top of the grade and put your house on top of that. And so the expansive soil moves and water runs through it, so that's an issue. Parts of Waco has older homes, so it has older electrical. So I see a lot of ungrounded electrical, which was a common practice actually. In electrical, you have a positive and a neutral wire.
Right.
And so now they've just run, that grounding wire is run with it. In the past, it wasn't. So a lot of people with modern electrical like to get that repaired.
Okay.
And then I see a lot of just dirty HVAC systems. It's
We don't change the filters. We just we get busy and
changing a filter is probably one of the simplest things you could do. Number one, it's clean air that you're breathing because the house is super dirty. But if you keep your filter clean, that lets the air flow smoothly over your heat exchanger or your air coils. And I have seen some horrible looking stuff, and we're breathing it. So
it's true though. I mean, it's one of those things. It's out of sight, out of mind. You don't think about it, and if you don't put your filtering system on a schedule, then yeah, we just forget about it and move on until it's a problem. And then when it's 105 degrees in July and our air conditioner isn't working, we don't want to admit it was our fault because we didn't change the filter every 3 months or whatever was recommended.
You know, another thing I see on HVAC systems quite a bit is you have condensation lines.
Yep.
What happens with warm air? It liquefies.
It liquefies.
Gas changes consistency, right? And so that becomes water, and our condensation lines, because we get so much water in Texas, they get clogged up, and people don't clean those out. And I had a client last summer, I found water dripping underneath. It was the seller, not my client. It was the seller, and I let them know. They didn't deal with it right away, and 300 feet of drywall later, in the middle of a sale, they figured it out, but they had some expensive repairs, and I told them it was there, and they didn't fix it. And so it's little things. A lot of times with houses, it's the tiny little things that actually save you the big expensive dollars.
Yeah.
And that's part of what we look for. You know, my inspection report, a lot of times you'll see a lack of a secondary condensation line. And that secondary is there to provide you protection if the backup fails. So it's things like that that we're looking for. Yeah, we want to make sure the house is good, but then we also want to educate you on how can the house be better and help you live in it longer.
Right, and on part of that education, I'm going to double back to the electrical problems. As you said, houses were built at a different time and everything was done a different way. That wouldn't exactly fail a home inspection, but it would be something that you would want to point out.
That is correct.
Is looked into.
Yep, that is correct. And one thing for those of you out of state, from either the East Coast or the West Coast, coming here to Waco, the standards are different than East and West Coast. And so in some places, it's required to be up to code or up to par. Here in Central Texas, the house is what the house is. And so we're here to help educate you on that and help you know how to proceed forward. That's where I can educate you on the house, show you what it is, and then Anthony steps in and he's going to help you proceed with what to ask for and how to do that here in Texas, because the house is what the house is, and no one is required to do anything. And that's why you bring people in to help you guide you through those steps.
Yeah, and that's why I have a long list of electrical contractors, plumbing contractors, septic, just because of issues that we find, and then we want an estimate to try to figure out how to proceed with the transaction. You need an estimate, you need a quote pretty quick, and by having a list of those individuals, we can get that back to you in a timely fashion.
Absolutely. I think one of the most fascinating things about different parts of the country is how housing is so vastly different. You know, we're one great union, so to speak, the United States of America, but yet you go region to region and it is so vastly different. And for me, originally coming from Delaware, we had to deal with snow loads.
Yes.
So I had to learn what roof structure was adequate in Central Texas, because we don't have snow load. Now we did just recently find out about what cold can do.
Yeah.
And there's ways we can deal with that too.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting phenomenon of how differently we are, and particularly coming from outside of the community. It's good to have experts in the community to help you.
I'll be putting Kendrick's contact information down in the description below. If you have any questions for him, I'll have his email address where you could reach out, ask questions. Also, if you need to schedule an inspection, all his contact information will be included. Kendrick, is there anything else you'd like to add about the inspection process that you think people may want to know, need to know, that I haven't thought of this morning?
You know, the big thing is we're not here to try to rip these houses apart. We're here to try to help you in your decision process. A lot of times we're viewed as the crusty inspectors. We're just the grouchy guys, and we don't care. Look, we do care about your homes. We care about you guys. We want to help you be comfortable in the home that you're going to live in with your family. And know that do your research when you look for a home inspector. Check out their social media pages, check out their websites, ask around, look at reviews. Those are all things that help you. How is your home inspector serving you?
Right.
That's ultimately the question. And in the state of Texas, they need to be certified by the Texas Real Estate Commission. and you need a TREC professional inspector license number. So there's 3 different type of inspectors. To own and operate a business, you have to be a professional inspector. To work for one, you have to be a real estate inspector or an apprentice inspector. So just make sure that whoever you're working with, however you're working with them in the state of Texas, that they have a TREC inspector number.
Yeah,
And they should always provide that number for you.
yeah, all great points. Well, Kendrick, I'd like to thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me on.
Anytime that we can reach out with questions, I'll be sure that I'll be more than happy to reach out and ask, because I would rather have an expert opinion than just what I read and what I know and what I've experienced. I'd rather have someone trained, do all the different aspects of the transaction that I can reach out to, and I really
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
Well, we would love to answer anybody's questions, and our aim is to help and to serve.
All right, thank you so much.